Ananda, you're right. Contentment with what actually is would be tantamount to self-realization. Yeah, in a way, you could say that, Ananda. Um, and I wouldn't use that very exact language, but I know what you are saying. Um, to say that I am content with what is still has like a faint sense of me in it. Maybe it could be just the wording. Okay, it could be just the wording. So in the words that use self-realization, in self-realization there is completely no me. There is no me whatsoever. It's just peace, just the self, just presence, just contemplation, celebration, peace, happiness, tranquility. There are no. It's an absence. It's an absence of any issues. It's an open field. An open space of peace and happiness. So it's a no personal mind. It's just a seamless universal mind. But that never leaves itself, never leaves the source, never forgets itself. So in a way, it's a contentment with what is, but there's just no person in that contentment. There is no body in that contentment. It is difficult for the mind to conceive of that, of what I'm talking about, because the mind operates in the personal realm. It's always some person. It's an engaged. It's not a disengaged a state of sort of a retreat from the world. It's not that way. It's an engagement but the engagement is from your absence. It's God engaging. So there is an appropriate engagement in what's appearing. That it's always in peace, from the peace, expressing the peace and the intelligence. Because the intelligence sometimes says, okay, that is not the direction that I want to follow. So that comes from intelligence.
Even the relative meaning of contentment is something that's been hard to really go with, in a sense that, like, whatever comes, whatever goes, totally okay because of the, call it, spiritual reality and being there, being that. And I hear what you're saying. The word contentment sounds weak. It sounds like, it's still.
Well, there is an impression of somebody being content. You see, so it's a contentment without anybody. So can you conceive of a contentment where there is nobody being content?
No, so it involves a more refined person who would be content, but so not a no person, not beyond person.
Right. So if you can conceive of a contentment without a person, okay, then you could say it's contentment. Yeah, but contentment is as a wording doesn't fully express it, because there's a slight sense of me in that. So more like it's peace. It's a causeless peace. It's so self-realization, meaning sahaja samadhi, is you know yourself so fully and so completely that there is no one that knows themselves anymore. You are the self. It's a radical transformation that doesn't leave anything untouched. Nothing is spared. But as a practice, along the way, it's very helpful to notice, your contraction, to notice your resistances, to notice your agendas, to notice the patterns that you defend, that you cherish, and to explore possibility of releasing them, of relaxing around those notions, those ideas, those beliefs. To explore not knowing and living as not knowing, living without definition. And giving it a try. Because whatever definitions or notions you have about yourself or about others, they limit, they constrain.
Mm-hmm.
While consciousness is complete freedom. And to constrain complete freedom is impossible. It's just that's why it's like, that's why it said that suffering is an illusion, because you cannot really limit freedom. It's an oxymoron. You cannot limit what is limitless. And consciousness is limitless.
Mm-hmm.
What we are, what reality, the reality of our being, the reality of beingness is consciousness. And that is limitless. That's genderless. It's not in time and space. So the sense of limitation is an impression.
Mm-hmm.
You can't divide the sky.
Mm-hmm.
You can't divide the ocean in pieces.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm getting something that if the issue of contentment is a debate internally in some way, am I going to be? Then it just hasn't gone to the other realm. Well, the realm of not.
Yeah. Well,
being
ask yourself, what is it that would be content? Like, for example, right now, there is this experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, well, okay, I am content with this experience, for example, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So then you ask yourself, well, what is it that is content with this experience? So the fastest answer is I am content with this experience. So then you say, okay, well, what is this? What is this I? What is it? What is this? I mean, this I that I just referred to.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? So it must be something real, because if it's not real, then what are we talking about? Mm-hmm. So there is something real here that we refer to as I, that I refer to as I say, I'm content with this experience. Mm-hmm. So I say, okay, what is it that is real right now that is content with this experience? Do I need to speak louder, or is it okay?
You know, last time I was making some sound problems.
Yes.
And I have somebody here with me watching on another screen, and
yes.
I need a little. Just tell me if there's any problem.
Okay, I will let you know.
Okay.
So then you ask yourself, what is it? What is this? What is this I that is real right now, that is content with this experience? You see, and that's how you go to consciousness, because it's the I that's asking that question. It's the I that is asking, well, what is this I? So the I is asking itself. It's the I that's asking, what is this I? What am I? So it's asking itself. And so you just stay there with that I facing I asking I, what am I? And you come to a transparency. There is a transparency. There is, the I facing itself, the I being itself. And there is nothing in between I. There is nothing between I and I, yes? So, right, there is nothing between I and I. It's I asking myself, what am I? Yes?
Right. So, like as the Vedas say, if the I somehow takes on limiting adjuncts as self-definition, then there's apparently not limitless anymore.
Well, yeah, no. If the I takes on personal attributes, then there is the I knowing an object.
Yes.
Because this attribute, this personal attribute, has to be known, right? Because if it's not known, it does not exist. It would be imagining. So the I, or what we refer to as the me, the I that takes on personal attributes, we refer to it as the me. When the I takes on the attribute of the me, there is now an object that is known, but this object is always known by the I, the limitless I.
Yes.
Because there is no other knower.
And that object may completely morph and disappear.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because the object that the personal me usually is the body, the mentation, the mind, and the world. See, that's what the me is, an object that I as consciousness perceives. So the personal is arises out of the impersonal. But is always known by the person. It arises out of it as a dream object. It doesn't really leave it, because nothing ever leaves consciousness. So it's like, it's like the sun. The sun sometimes has solar flares of thousands of millions of light years of flames or whatever that erupt out of the sun, but they're still the sun. They're rising out of the sun, then they go right back into the sun. Yeah, there are solar flares, solar events, or like dream events. Dream events. In your night dream, you dream of forms that arise out of you, and then they dissolve back in you. They don't really leave you. There isn't like a separate reality that separates itself away from consciousness. So the me impression, the personal impression, is the dream of consciousness.
I know this sounds completely ridiculous, but a thought came to me. We say the waves are nothing but ocean. But somebody could say the ocean is nothing but waves. What's the difference?
No, because imagine an ocean that is completely still. There is zero wind.
Yes.
There is the moon is now at a certain point in its trajectory that it's not impinging on the surface of the ocean.
Right.
So you could not say that the ocean is waves, because where are the waves?
No, oceanness is always there. True. Ocean is always there.
But whenever there is a wave, it's the ocean. Whenever there is a wave, it is the ocean.
Yeah. Well, that was easily dealt with. It's just a, it's like if it's not completely clear, the reality that we're basically talking about, then the mind is going to still come up with stupid things of all sorts.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
It's just the way it is, I guess.
Right. So consciousness dreams all dreams. All dreams are made out of consciousness, but consciousness is not made out of any dream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So no limitations that arise in the dream limit consciousness.
Right. I look up. I want to look in your eyes, and so I have to look up 6 inches above your head to look into the camera.
Yes.
I do that from time to time. But thank you. This has just been wonderful. It's been wonderful several months now, I think, that I've been communicating with you, and it's just great. I've had the opportunity to have dialogues similar to this my whole adult life, basically. Somehow an intuition that, of what I of these issues, of the things we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just incredibly wonderful to have more and more clarification. And I could say, why does it take so long? Why has it taken so long? But I don't know. There's no point in particularly saying that.
It is a thinning out process.
Thinning out
process. The process.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So that you will find yourself in the just openness, tranquility. Whatever is on deck never interferes. It's just it's smooth.
Mm.
It calls your attention just so, not more, not less. So you don't trouble yourself.
Mm. Right.
You respond. There is an appropriate response.
Yesterday, I realized I've been working a lot. I've been working so much that I have periods of exhaustion for a day that can last for 2 days before I go back onto it. And I've changed that. It didn't make sense to have it that rough, so I've changed it.
Good.
But something came up yesterday. So I was exhausted yesterday, and I was feeling tender, kind of, and you know what I mean? It's fragile.
Yes.
And then I got some news telling me that my tax bracket, because of working more, I was going to lose basically all the extra money I'm making at this towards the end of the year here. A big bunch of extra money, and it's all goes. The only way I could get out of it is to quit for the rest of the year and stop making any more right now. And I'm in a beautiful group that needs my input. I'm not going to do, it doesn't feel right to do that.
Right.
So the me impression, and I love that term, me impression. It sounds much more clearly seen than saying the ego or I, the small me, or that doesn't even exist. But the me impression, I see I love that term. So the me impression definitely got annoyed, depressed, all within a limited time frame. I mention it because it was.
It's okay, It's okay.
It was an unusual moment of not being clear, not being steady. Huh?
What matters is your clarity right now. Yeah. So right now, just knowing yourself as this presence. Just go to that. Go to the transparency that hears these words. The transparent. Go to the space of your perception and expand it right now. Just expand. the space, the field of your perception.
Mm-hmm.
Expand towards the rear and towards the sides and towards the back. Expand the rear, the sides. The forward is usually expanded, but expand the sides and the rear.
I see what you mean. There's an impression of being hemmed in, and it's not true. Is what you're saying.
Yes. Expand that and relax your body. Allow your body to relax and to expand. And remain in that formless expansion. Savor it. And don't carry the past with you. Because a moment of presence dissolves everything that's in the field. So you can just stay with that and enjoy that and celebrate that.
Yeah.
But without attaching yourself in any way, without defining anything, remain undefined and unattached.
Not a new yoga, and I'm a yogi with this yoga now.
Yes, no new identity.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Ananda. Hello, Isaac. So Isaac said, I guess to talk about the feeling of vulnerability, yes? Yes, Isaac? A deep feeling of vulnerability. Well, you know, there are certain vulnerability applies in certain realms, but in other realms it does not. So you could say that the body-mind is vulnerable, yes? That the body-mind exists in relationship to other elements, and they impinge onto each other. So there is a certain moments of well-being and certain moments of ill-being at that level, at the level of the body and of the mind. So you could say that vulnerability applies to the form. That's from looking at it from the relative point of view, that an oak tree, can live to be 150, maybe 200 years, but at some point in time, it will get uprooted or it will start to decay. A human body lives upwards to 100 years, but at some point in time, it will start to decay as well. So that there is, from that perspective, when you're looking at events that are in time and space, you could say, well, yes, they're vulnerable in that they're changing. They go from one form, one vibrational level, vibratory level, to another. But nothing is really gained or lost. It's more like it's redistributed. There is a redistribution of the structure. So a human body, will get redistributed at some point in time in other forms, in other ways. And then there is There is another sort of vulnerability, which is the psychological vulnerability, which applies to a sense of self, a sense of me, a sense of personhood that perceives itself in isolation or in separation to the rest, to the whole. And in that impression of a limitation of selfhood, of personhood, the sense of vulnerability arises. And this is where many of us get stuck, in that there is an inherited and a maintained impression of personhood that most of us live without examining it. In this case, of course, we are a very privileged group of friends here, because we actually are contemplating the reality of this impression. We're questioning this impression of being a person. And that's a core inquiry, Isaac. It's a core investigation that you need to conduct if you really want the answer to your question about the feeling of vulnerability. Because the feeling of vulnerability cannot be relieved at the conceptual level. You actually need to come to realize that this impression of being a limited person in time and space is not what you truly are. I read what you said, it's about the violence of the world. But coming back to that, that's a very important inquiry you need to contemplate, Isaac. What you truly are is not what the mind says you are. Thoughts are perceived by you. They cannot define you. They cannot say anything about you, because you are the perceiver of the thoughts. You can say what they are. You can perceive the thoughts and describe them, but the thoughts cannot perceive you. They're perceived forms, perceived objects. So the impression that you are a body-mind, you are a mortal body-mind, is made out of thoughts and bodily sensations. You are not defined by the thoughts that you perceive. You are not defined by the feelings, by the bodily sensations that are known to you. Nothing that you perceive defines you, Isaac. You are awareness. Beyond words, it's beyond words. What you are is beyond words. The body-mind impression is not a problem. Identifying yourself as that creates an illusory impression of limitation and unhappy. reduction of your wholeness to a sense of me that's isolating. You're way beyond that. The violence in the world arises as a result of identification with form. My form versus your form. My tribe versus your tribe. My wealth versus your wealth. My religion versus your religion. My country versus your country. My family versus your family. It creates such a separation, it dries the heart, dries out the heart. It's like, yes, I love my people, but you are there, you're not my people. I'm not sure how, if I love you. If you behave yourself, I might love you, but I'm not sure that you have to go through the test and prove yourself to be on our side. Then I will love you. But you already withdrew the love out of your heart. You're already suffering by withdrawing the love out of your heart. It's really important to restore your heart to its wholeness. And that's only possible when you cease diminishing yourself to a body-mind form. Violence will continue as long as there is this me identification, me versus you, right? That's how it works. I want what you have. I don't like you because you did not meet my expectations. You did not praise me. You did not vote for me. It's always a me and another, a me and the others. And then, Isaac, there is self-violence. There is violence that we inflict onto ourselves. Self-hate or self-love, they're both violent because they're isolating. They're judgmental. Self-judgments and judgments of the other come hand in hand. They're all violent. There is no love in them. So vulnerability and violence are connected to this sense of isolation that is a result of this identification that we've inherited, and we maintain it. We buy into it, Isaac. But I don't buy into it. It's the same consciousness, that one consciousness shining through all minds. At the local level, mind events are different. There are gender differences, there are cultural differences, there are family differences, there are circumstances differ. But that's at the mind level. At the consciousness level, it's one consciousness. And what we are is this one consciousness dreaming different dreams. So what if the dreams differ, Isaac? It doesn't matter. The dreams do not matter. What matters is knowing yourself as the light of consciousness. And that's where the love and the peace is, in knowing yourself. But when you confuse yourself to be the mind Then there is unhappiness because the mind is limited. And you feel that you are mortal, and so there is a concern about your mortality. And that's unhappy. And from this unhappiness, there is a struggle and conflict, and the mind is confused and unclear. And we're looking for happiness, and we don't know where to look for it. We say, oh, well, maybe if I get more money, or if I get somebody who loves me, or if I get a relationship, or if I get a better house, or I don't know. We look at the world, body, mind. We look at the impermanent world, impermanent events, to make us happy. And when we get them, we're happy for a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. But this happiness doesn't last. Because our happiness is in knowing ourselves, knowing that we are not, that our happiness is not conditional. We do not exist in time and space. Time and space exists in us as a perception. We perceive time, we perceive space, we perceive as mind events. They're not a problem. It's amazing how much we love each other, and yet we live in isolation, in the me isolation. But we don't need to continue to do that. It's really important to contemplate that what I truly am is not defined by what is perceived. Remain with that perceives. Continue to contemplate the source, that perceives, that truly hears these words. It's not a form, it's not a man or a woman. It's not an object, but it's not nothing. Well, thank you for your question, Isaac. Okay. Are there any other questions? So I'm going to read a question that was asked. I would love to hear about the devotion to one teacher as opposed to having many teachers. It is how it was before, and now many teachers are available to all. I have heard but trust to stick to one teacher in order to make the leap into the unknown. Now this message is everywhere. So many beautiful messages and ways to express the truth. it feels like a supermarket, loving them all, but superficially, because there is no possibility to go deep with each of them. I come from the old school when we fell in love with a teacher in our longing and love for truth, which would explode in stronger confidence, motivation, and determination. So a teacher is a friend, yeah? It's a friend that has traveled or is traveling the same road that you're traveling. And as a friend, it's somebody that you like. You enjoy their company, you enjoy listening to them, being with them, you're curious about them. You want to know how they perceive certain things, and you like to explore your questions with them. So it's a friendly, loving relationship. But it's true, like in today's world of high tech, there are teachers everywhere. But your relationship with teacher is very specific. You're not in relationship with teachers everywhere. The way you work with a teacher is by exploring. You become familiar with the teacher's pointers, language, ways of exploring various questions, their manners, the way they live, and of course the peace that you experience with your teacher. So it's just because there is access to so many various books and words and videos and audios and so on of various teachers. And of course, you might enjoy such encounters, such relationships. If it does not unfold into a relationship where you are working closely with the teacher and soaking in a way the teaching, not just what's being spoken, but the whole relationship with the teacher. You cannot consider that you're really working with such with such teachers. So, like with a friend, with a teacher, you want to be with them, you want to listen to them, you want to see them, you want to explore them. And it's in this exploration of the teacher that you get the revelation of the teaching, and also through the presence of the teacher there is a transformation. So maybe until you find the teacher that speaks to you, that you find a resonance with, maybe you are looking around, checking, listening, keeping your ears on the ground, onto the ground, to listen, to find what resonates for you, which makes perfect sense. But it's important that that doesn't become your pattern of exploring the truth, of your exploration and your contemplation. It can be a phase in your along the path of looking for a teacher, but you're better off ending with a teacher, not with many teachers, with one teacher that you work with. I mean, there might be other teachers that you also resonate with, but your work, your exploration, your contemplation, your questions, and your presence, and the relationship and the company is with that one teacher. So it's good that you are from the old school, that the school of deep love, because that's a beautiful school. It's eventually you have to fall in love with the teacher. But the teacher is not a person. It might appear as a person, but the teacher is the self. It's the reality of consciousness that speaks through the teacher, that touches your heart, goes straight through all your defenses, goes straight through all your conditioning, touches your heart. You can't resist that. When you feel that being touched that way, then you know that you are with your teacher. Okay, I hope this answered your question. Just wanted to make one last comment. An email. It's a quote about stopping your thoughts. It is the thoughts that see everything in the world as good and bad, right and wrong. So we have to stop thinking. Just want to say a few words about that. There are a lot of teachings that vilify thought, and basically practice is to try to go to that thoughtless state, to go to no thought. But in itself, to just want to go to no thought, that's a thought. So you're maintaining the thought of no thought, and that in itself is troublesome. It's like an impossible task. Because how could you use a thought to go to no thought? It's an impossible task, and it's very confusing, and you can just do a lot of effort to but you're still in the thought state. Now, thoughts are like the weather. They're impersonal events. When you see a cloud in the shape of an angel, you don't identify with it. Or when you see a cloud in the shape of a dragon, you don't identify with it. It doesn't matter. Similarly with thought, as long as you don't identify with any thought, meaning if the thought says you're very beautiful, you don't buy it. You just say, oh, interesting thought. Or the thought says, oh, you're very stupid. You don't identify with it. You say, oh, interesting thought. Or the thought comes says, you're never going to be enlightened. You look at it, you don't identify with it. You say, oh, interesting thought. So, what do I care what thought says? What the content of thought is? Like when I go to sleep and I'm dreaming at night, there are all sorts of images. What do I care about those images? Now the problem is when you identify. If you identify that you're actually this man and this lion is chasing you, then that's an unhappy situation. So when the thought arises, oh goodness, you're never going to be enlightened, and you buy into it, you identify that yes, I am this person that this thought is talking about, then you're pretty unhappy. So it's really important that you remain as the screen, not as the images that arise on the screen. The screen doesn't give a hoot what sort of images are arising on the screen. Could be a beautiful ocean view, or it could be a volcanic eruption. The screen is untouched by what arises on the screen. So if you can contemplate thoughts in that same way, that basically thoughts are impersonal, remain as that presence that has no task to do. Thoughts come and go. I wouldn't trouble myself with thoughts, trying to fix thoughts or get rid of thoughts, or just don't become like Velcro, where thoughts stick to you. If you notice thoughts, you will find that they arise and they dissolve. They arise. New York City is a beautiful city. And then the thought is gone, and there's the next thought, oh gee, you're not very smart. That thought arises and dissolves. If you notice, thoughts arise and dissolve. None of them actually stays. The only way that it seems that the thought stays is when a thought arises and says you're really stupid, and you start arguing with it. Then it seems that thought stays. You go, oh no, I'm not stupid. What makes you say I'm stupid? Oh, it's because you did this and that. Oh, but I did not do this. I did that, and so the impression lingers. But then you go to sleep and everything dissolves in sleep. So you don't need to wait to go to sleep for all these impressions to dissolve. You can just notice that they dissolve right away. As soon as they arise, they dissolve. A thought arises and dissolves. You don't need to struggle with it. You just notice it. It arises and dissolves. It does not define you. No thought defines you. What you truly are is undefined. Thoughts are always about dream characters, dream stories. Me, you, her, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, they're dream characters. Because when you look at me, what me are they talking about? Is it the me of 2 hours ago, the me of 5 hours ago, the me of 6 years ago? How many me's are there? What is this me right now that thought referred to? There's no me, just aware presence. And that is not defined by any thought. No thought can touch what you are. So you don't need to get your hands dirty. Just recognize that what you truly are is undefined. And yet, it's the reality of all experiences. And that reality is inherent freedom, peace and happiness, love and beauty. So are there any questions? Okay, well, if there aren't any questions, I thank you very much for your lovely company, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, Isaac. Bye, Jenny. Ananda. Goodbye, everybody.